torture for a salesperson. Your self-worth is very much based on your sales result. The early days, if my name wasn't the top of that board, if someone starts talking about different, temperature coefficients and this and that, that person will get paralysis by analysis and never buy a solar power system. We have a Solarhart CRM. Once you've entered in all the information, you've done your design, you can select your inverter, your hot water, your panel, your battery, and then at the end it will populate a quote for you.
We've just been sitting down with Cameron from Solarhart. Very interesting conversation about being a diesel mechanic in his early days, selling cars and developing some amazing sales techniques. And then finally his current position at Solarhart, where he's involved in residential solar, residential batteries, heat pumps and commercial solar systems. The sales techniques and his approach, his passion, his attention to detail is a delight to behold. So strap yourself in, sit yourself down, or the other way around, and let's get stuck into it. But before you do, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel and of course to Greenwood Academy. Let's get after it. We might as well start chronologically. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ferntree Gully,
Oh, right.
so out in the outer east.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Local. So, and now currently your business is in Bayswater.
We are in Bayswater.
And we're talking Solarhart, and we're going to talk a lot about Solarhart. Growing up, did you have what was your interest in renewables? Like, did something like right from the word go, you said, "Gee, I like the ideas of solar panels," or what?
Probably not. To be honest, I was a car fanatic. As a young fella, every weekend, I'd go and get. In those days, magazines were big. The internet was not a big thing as a child of the 80s. So, Wheels magazine and Motor magazine and all this. Just always had my head buried in that, and posters on the wall and all that sort of stuff. And so I thought I was always going to be in the car trade in some form, I suppose. So, started off as an apprentice mechanic. That's what I was as a young fella. And that wasn't as glamorous as I thought it was going to be. I was a diesel mechanic, and I spent most of the first year in a pit underneath buses with a pressure washer. You can imagine that wasn't great. But so as soon as I finished that apprenticeship, got out of it as quickly as possible, and found myself a position as a detailer in a car dealership, and effectively I didn't want to sort of do that forever, but it was a little bit of a stepping stone. So I asked the dealer principal if he'd mind if I came in on a Sunday, because the dealership was open on a Sunday, and just watched the salespeople there was one salesperson, watched the salesperson in the used car lot. I didn't want to be paid. I just, I wanted to sort of learn the craft. And he liked people that showed initiative, and he said, yeah, absolutely, So, and he said, look, if he's tied up and there's people sort of land on the yard, by all means, grab him, just try it out, see how you go, So, spent many years in the car trade, and I guess it was to get to your question, how did I get into renewables? I guess I worked with a guy in the car trade that actually started his own solar business.
Right.
And I guess that's what sort of generated the interest from there. It was initially the Monday to a Friday appealed in the solar industry, as we all know, in the car trade.
No, it's weekend, a lot of weekend work.
Saturdays are compulsory, and Saturdays and car dealerships have big windows, and out of those big windows, you see people going past with jet skis and boats and caravans and enjoying their weekend, and
you're in the office
and you're not.
I can imagine that.
So
let's jump back a bit, because you mentioned about your interest in cars. Now, are we talking V8s, or we're talking? I was going to say rotaries, because I had some mates who were into the Mazda rotary engines, which were they were phenomenally nasty They were nasty little engines. They were fast.
Yeah.
But you were more a V8.
Oh, all of that, yeah. Anything performance, I suppose. So and I guess that's what I envisaged. When I took on the apprenticeship, I thought I'd be working on sort of hot rods and
not dirty old buses.
No, not dirty old buses.
But then again, you said diesel mechanic because there's not. I suppose back then there's not that many high performance diesel cars, is there? It's all internal combustion, unleaded. Maybe you got the avgas for those. Or the nitrous burning, those sort of cars, the drag cars. Did you have any? Did you actually have your own? You must have had your own car.
Oh, absolutely.
And what can you give us a rundown?
Yeah. So the first one was an XY GS Falcon with a 302 and
Windsor.
Then,
they were Windsors. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And and then like every young car nut, had a series, then a rotary. So I had an RX.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I had an RX4.
Wow!
And managed to blow it up. It was the same as everybody does. But sort of in those days, you sort of lean one way or the other. You're either a Ford fan or a Holden fan. And I think as you get older, you realise that they both have some really good models. But,
look,
in those days, it was if it was Ford,
Oh no, it was really black and white, wasn't it? It's funny because I use that comparison a bit, like when I'm talking maybe about the solar rail. I go, and I'll say the companies. I go Clenergy, Sunlight, right, for the commercial side of things. I go Ford and Holden, and I always use that. And some people look at me when the younger guys and go, "What?" And I go, have to explain because. I grew up. I'm older than you, but I was in the 80s. I was like 8. I was 18, 81. So I was like late 70s. Then mates starting to get cars, and had one mate with a Valiant Charger. That was a beast. 265 with triple carbs, and then other people who claim they had the real GDHOs, but looking back, I don't think they were. But they were 351s, and it was another era, and they were ridiculously fast cars, weren't they? Like
for the time.
They were scary. But yeah, exactly. Compared to electric cars. Have you ever, and I know we're straying a bit, but have you ever watched those videos on YouTube where the petrol heads going, the bloody electric cars, and they get into a Tesla and they go the ridiculous.
Genuinely shocked.
Have you been in like a Tesla or one of the electric cars when it's been hammered?
Frightening.
It is.
Yeah.
I actually hurt my neck the other week. Brother-in-law's got a BMW, faster than the Tesla, and he goes, I've only put it in this mode 3 times before, and your sister, his wife, my sister said he's not allowed to do it while she's there. I actually hurt my neck, and my glasses came off my head and went back, and I had a sore neck for a while. It was exhilarating, but it was freaking fast.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? Like that.
It is weird.
That sort of feeling.
But I'm a traditionalist a little bit. They still don't have the sound, So
well, this is the thing, isn't it?
Car guys appreciate the sound, So
well, you're dead right. It's like motorcycles. I'm on motorcycles, but I'll hear a Ducati and go, "That's a nice sound." There's something about that.
Yeah, that adds to the experience.
Absolutely, because it's not just about going fast. So you became a diesel. Why specifically diesel mechanic at the time?
Oh, just like every other young bloke, you search the classifieds for opportunities as a mechanic and struggled with it a little bit, to be honest, to get someone to take me on. And it was just a friend of the family in the end that said, like, I heard your boys, interested in being a mechanic, I own a bus line, do you think you'd be interested, So I guess there's a little bit of pressure there, because, Dad's saying, my friend wants you to work with him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So away you go.
Well, it's obviously there's this interest in energy, though, isn't there? Right from the word go. I mean, we're talking cars and stuff, and
how things work.
I was going to ask that. So were you the sort of kid that like pull things apart when you were young and try to put them back together?
Yeah.
Right. So you've got an engineering mind, effectively.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, not a very polished one though, because I think we end up with a whole lot of bits on the floor, but they never get put back together.
I'll tell you what, most of the engineers that I've had on the podcast, actually all of them have wanted to pull things apart and wanted to know how they work, and most of them could never put them back together again. I had one guy pulled his television, his family television apart. He got a hiding for that because he wanted to know how the television worked.
That's a relief, because I hear stories of this kid was always pulling stuff apart and he'd have it back together in an hour, and that was not me. That was not me.
That's rare in my experience. So you've got your at this car dealership, and you've gone, I'll have a bit of a look. So what part of sales is that attracted you? Is it the interaction with other people, or you just said, bugger this, I don't want to do that. I don't want that physical hard work. Maybe there's another way of making money.
It seemed glamorous to me at the start, I suppose, and well paid, and I guess you got to be in and around the trade, and I guess on the cutting edge as new models come in and things like that. Without going home filthy each night, and covered in diff oil and stuff like that. So any mechanic will tell you get, the first time you get some diff oil on you, that stuff sticks with you for about a week. So I guess it was, I seen it as, this is a really good, trajectory for, going forward. I think this is what I want to do. And thankfully, that the dealer principal that was there, afforded me that opportunity to just ply my craft, and there was always an opportunity, and grew to love it very, very quickly. I think there was hardly a Sunday that went by when I didn't sell a car.
So what did you love about the sale, or the process, or the whole lot?
It was definitely the sale at the start, and you get a lot of pride out of sort of handing someone over the keys to the car that could be the next 5, 10, 15 years. So, that person's chosen you.
They're happy about it too, aren't they? That's the thing.
Yeah, that's right. They're happy about it. And I guess in those, I guess the early times, it's, you just want to get one away. You just want to get one away. But the guy that was, that I was effectively his apprentice, he was a long time steward of the car trade, and a really, really good person to lean on and learn from, and only too willing to share his time, So I guess the best thing I learnt from him was that it was actually okay to make money,
Yes.
Like I guess when you're first getting into selling something, you just, you're desperate for that first sale and like to sort of prove yourself. But are you making money? Are you and if you are, then that's actually okay. And if you do, then you'll probably get paid some more than what you currently are, So that was a sort of good grounding from the very start. There's no doubt about it. And then sort of I did that for about maybe 4 or 5 months, and then I guess what got me into the car trade full time was they had an event, where they put the wall up. They call it a main event, where they put the wall up around the outside, and they have a weekend of activities, and it's a big sale and this and that. Anyway, so they called me in as a recruit, just to help with the numbers of the masses that would be coming there. And it went over 3 days. It was a Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And I sold more cars than anybody else over the weekend.
You're a gun.
Obviously made the dealer principal think, hang on a second. So come in on Monday, and he said, he got called into the office, and he says, have you got a suit, Cameron?
If you don't,
you better get one. Yeah, because you start in new cars tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he said that I know you've been with, Joe in used cars. He said, but I think you'll get a better grounding in new cars, because a used car, yeah, I guess that car's very specific,
Yes.
There might be another one down the road, but it doesn't have the same amount of kilometres.
Right.
It's not the same colour. It's not the same age. Whereas new cars, you can buy that same car in 50 different places.
Right.
It's identical.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to work out a way that person's going to give you the opportunity to sell that car rather than the other
Down the road,
50.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, because I think he said at the time, a new car salesperson can sell new or used, but not necessarily the other way around.
That's really interesting. It sounded like you had the right, I can't think of the right word, temperament for sales. So I'll ask you this question. Is that nature or is that nurture? Like, is that who you are, or did you sort of learn, you know what I mean?
I think it's a bit of both. I think with salespeople, there's some that are probably, no matter how much training you put into them, they lack the confidence. They lack, I guess, that likability is maybe a good word.
You can't learn that.
But you can't. But look, that's the 10%. The 90% is definitely nurture. It's training and getting off to a good start, So,
Are you taught psychology and stuff like that, or because you're dealing with people, aren't you? And
absolutely.
You're dealing with a want. It's not a need.
Yeah.
You might want to make it a need, but it's really a want, isn't it? I want a new car.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got an old car. I could keep it.
Absolutely.
But I want that new car.
There's definitely the psychology, and also I learnt a lot of the craft there too. I guess there's a couple of different presentations that you see in the car trade, and one is the window sticker presentation where you can stand at the window that's got the white ticket there, and you can say this car's got air conditioning, power steering, alloy wheels, this and that, and that's considered a pretty poor presentation. The correct way is a 6-point sale, as they describe it. So you'll start off at the front of the car and talk about let's lift the hood, and this is what the engine is, and it's got LED lights, or it's got this and that, and then you'll move to the passenger side and you'll go over some features and benefits, and then you'll go to the back of the car and you'll lift the boot, show them the space, it's got a full-size spare. Then you'll go around to the driver's side, explain some other things there. Then you'll invite the customer to sit in the car, and then you'll go over the equipment, and then you'll offer them a test drive as the last thing. And then obviously when you're on that test drive, you're asking some sort of qualifying questions and sort of building rapport during that. So I guess the challenge for me moving into the renewable space was, I guess I've gone from having years of having something tangible in front of me that I can show. They can sit in it, they can drive it, they can do all sorts of things. And how are those skills transferable to
something not as tangible?
To Solar, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Now I'm selling a dream, so effectively, it's I can't open the door and say, here, do you want to sit in your solar system?
Wow.
So I guess I had to just work out a way, well, how do I still do that 6-point sale? Because effectively during that 6-point sale, if you think about there's, some sheep that are on a farm, and you're trying to close the gates around them so that they can't get out, so I guess you're handling objections before they become an objection.
So you're talking about unspoken concerns and addressing them before they're spoken.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key to all selling, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Like, especially with, like, even back to solar, why should I go for you? Why should I go for that product? What makes you so different? All that. It's really, really hard. Do you have good attention to detail? Because you mentioned about car detailing. And that requires, you can't just be like, she'll be right. I won't bother vacuuming under there. Like the good detailers, they're like fastidious. Is that your personality? Like,
very much so.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes too much. Yeah. So.
Well, there's that marginal diminishing returns, isn't it? That you get. it's finding that point where you go, any extra effort's only going to get this much gain. Sometimes that can be a lifelong challenge, trying to find that balance point. But it seems that, so you were in the car industry for a while by the sound of it.
I was, yeah.
How long were we talking?
A decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then after that, did you move straight to solar or?
Straight to solar.
So what was your own business, or did you work?
No. Like I said, the guy I used to work at Nissan with, he sort of got into it that he was, I guess, unhappy with the car trade, or for one reason or another.
Sorry, now you're working at Nissan. Was that? So you've jumped from the car's yard, the car showroom. That was Nissan, wasn't it?
That was with Hyundai at the start. Yeah, that's right.
On Ferntree Gully Road.
In Nuttawading.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, in Nuttawading. Yeah, so most people sort of in the car trade will move around a little bit. Whatever's hot and this and that. Grass is always greener and that sort of thing.
Because if you can sell one brand, you can sell another. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So. And sometimes depends on, where you're living geographically and things like that, dominate, I guess,
makes sense.
what you want to be doing, So
you gone to Nissan for a while, and then you met this bloke.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he was a colleague. We were working side by side, and he was actually working his normal week in the car trade, but of nights was doing a couple of solar appointments for a company, and in those days, the high feed-in was about to come to an end, it was, good times, I suppose, and he was finding that he was quite enjoying that, and so ended up he was earning more doing a couple of appointments each night in the solar industry than he was getting in his week, full time in the car industry. Wow. So we thought, I'll explore this a bit more, and it was much easier to start a solar business, I suppose. Back then there was no Solar Victoria and all that sort of stuff. You just you need a bit of an office space and a credit line, a couple of subbies, and away you go. So he did that for, I don't know, maybe 6 months, and then approached me and said, what do you think? So he said it's just the same as selling cars. It's the same process, but you work Monday to Friday, and there's potential for earnings there. It's a good time in solar now, so why don't you come across?
This is purely domestic at this point, because there wasn't that much commercial back then.
No, there wasn't. Probably 100%, I'd say.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
And the size of the systems were pretty small because it was all about that rebate.
Correct.
That huge rebate back then.
Yeah, that's right.
It was interesting times. Yeah, I remember them clearly, because I remember we used to talk to customers about, reduce your consumption during the day, turn off the fridge, put on a timer because you wanted to pump it back at that full feed-in tariff.
Correct.
And it's completely flipped around now, and now batteries, and we're going to be talking about batteries a bit. So what do you reckon was the main difference, the sales approach to selling the solar compared to a car? Apart from the obvious, they're different products, but what was the approach that you went, oh God, I've got to modify this a little bit, for the solar?
Well, I think in the early days you can get caught with the window sticker presentation of solar power, and I probably got caught in that too, where you'll get the, and still to this day there's probably 50% of the industry does it, where they'll get the brochure on a solar panel, and it's a tier 1 panel, and it's this many watts, and it's this and it's that, and it's this and it's
people
that.
Don't give a shit about that, do they?
They don't. They don't.
They trust you that you are going to select the right panel for them. They don't.
Absolutely.
You might meet the odd engineer, 1%, and goes, "Oh, what's the VOC of this panel?" and blah blah blah. And
in the car trade, if someone gets underneath a car and lays down and looks underneath it, there's a saying that person will never ever buy a car from you. It's similar in the solar industry. So if someone starts talking about the the different temperature coefficients and this and that, that person will get paralysis by analysis and never buy a solar power system.
So one of the skills is to identify that and go, I'm wasting my bloody time. Back away now. Back away.
Correct. Yeah.
Does
I
that
guess
happen much?
not
good.
not much. Thank goodness.
That'd be horrendous.
Yeah.
So you quickly worked out that they, like with the car, it's different. They want to know. They might go, oh, it's a great engine. It's turbo. It's electric. It's hybrid. It's this and that. Oh, the wheels are 9" compared to whatever. But in the solar, not so much.
So
are they a good quality panel?
Yeah, that's right. So you're talking. So you're like, once again, you're handling the objection before it becomes an objection, but also trying to put yourself in the mind of the customer as well. Like, what's important to them. So I hate to get asked the question by a customer, do I have to contact my power provider, for the connection and things like this? So I want to present a process where from end to end, they know every step. And I think it's probably something that's not talked about a lot is the admin side of it too.
Yes.
What we can expect there, the rebates, people are just putting a rebate in a quote, but not asking the qualifying questions of, what are the criteria for that rebate and do they meet that criteria for the rebate?
How much money are you earning?
What does the process of application look like? Are you willing to assist, with that process?
But you've got to be careful there, don't you? Because you don't want to overload them with too much information. They go, oh my God, it's so complicated.
No, you want to come across that, this is the one-stop shop and that, we will handle this and we will handle this and we will handle this and this is what you can expect. So it will take a day or 2 days, unless we run into something in layman's terms so that, so each step of the path they know that, what's going to be expected from us as a solar business, because I want to be sort of more thorough than the next guy. And I guess the business that I work for, Solarhart, got a long history of, I guess, doing the right thing by people who wouldn't have been around for 73 years.
You've been around for a long time, yeah.
So I guess, we need to sort of be explaining to people, this is the Solarhart, difference and why, So I guess I've gone from having, that 6-point sale around, physically walking around a vehicle, but now I'm actually going that 6-point sale. Okay, well, from the start to the end, this is what you can expect, So I was able to incorporate it that way.
Yeah, right.
And I find by and large it's generally well received, So, more often than not, whether they buy for me or I might not meet their budget, I might, but they'll generally say you were way more thorough and professional than the last, 2 or 3. We had no idea about this or that or that, So.
But you sort of, the other thing too is if they're driving for low price, that's something you want to work out straight away from them, because you get, you say, if you're just going for the cheapest price, maybe we're not for you.
Correct.
Because, I assume that, I know that's, Solarhart, the quality product, that they've got a good pack of people doing a good group of people doing their work. They have a brand that they must maintain credibility. They're not be selling the cheapest shit.
No.
So you're working with this fellow and you're discovering the nuances of selling solar. How long did you stay with your mate doing this before you, what was the next step? Yeah.
It was, about 3 years. Unfortunately, that business, like many startups, come to an end, and it got quite uncomfortable, I suppose is the best way to describe it. In the end, with, we can't buy stock from this place this week because we've extended our line of credit, and you've got solar wholesalers ring up when, finding out when stuff's going to be paid, and it was not a nice experience, and so I ended up sort of leaving that business and then falling back into the car trade as I guess you fall back to what you know, and it almost scared me completely out of solar. I thought, because you invest so much.
You do.
In building the business and everything that goes with it, to see it sort of tumble into the ground is heartbreaking, So there was probably a stage that I thought I'd never be back into the renewables, but look, an opportunity come up with Solarhart, and at the time I thought, well, obviously the history of the business.
So this is 2014 or so, around there?
Yes. No. So this was 2019.
Oh, okay.
2019 now. So opportunity come up with Solarhart, and I guess a recognised brand. Many decades of history. I thought they'd clearly not got the financial issues that the previous mob had.
Right.
And decided to get back into it, So and glad I did. So obviously, in my 7th year now with Solarhart, and
so how's it changed from you? So in the early days, you're selling just domestic. Now you're selling commercial. Now you're selling batteries. Now you're selling heat pumps, because Solarhart originally, they were a hot water system. That's how they started, isn't it?
Correct.
Hot water.
That's right.
How's that changed your? Are you still actively going out and selling now yourself? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that.
I'm the senior salesperson.
Right.
Yeah.
So how have you changed? How have you changed your approach with these new avenues, commercial and batteries? And two, what kind of training have you done, or what kind of the education have you done? Because selling batteries is hard. It's complicated stuff, isn't it?
Solarhart's a very, I guess, a compliance, focused sort of business, and the owner of our business too, very, very much, just will not negotiate on compliance. It has to be perfect, and we spend every Monday morning, running through what that looks like, so the strengths, weaknesses of the various products that we go to market with. We have dealer meetings at head office, with the manufacturers that we like to partner with. We don't just buy a product from them. We like to see them as partnerships, and we'll have them present on I guess the way that they see their product as being the right fit against others, and I guess then it's up to you as a salesperson to identify when that customer is in front of you, what is the right fit for them. So. And
that comes from, I suppose, experience and a lot of it's a lot of stuff, isn't it? You have to be able to quickly tell, okay, they're coming from this perspective. What would you say nowadays is the number one driver for sales in solar from a customer perspective? Like, is it control? Is it savings? Is it what's number one, you reckon?
It's still savings.
Yeah,
it's still savings.
That's I'm talking domestic more.
Yeah,
you reckon it's still?
I think it's still savings. Yeah, right. There's also blackout protection. We're seeing a lot more of that, and I guess as we're not the cheapest on the market, if return on investment was the only reason that you were buying a battery, then you probably wouldn't sell any.
Absolutely, you'd buy a bloody diesel generator.
Correct. Yeah. So and even that, I guess what's the return on investment on that? So
depends on how many blackouts. If it's you're right, and this is the thing. You know.
So I guess we've got people now that are. We're in a perfect storm, aren't we? Because we've seen, January 1st every year we get the tap on the shoulder from the the energy provider saying, oh, sorry guys, your rate's going up by 10%, and we continue to see that grow. We've got an export credit that's gone from 60 cents to 12 to 10 to 8, and I think the market rate at the moment is about 1 if you're lucky.
Yes.
And then in comes a battery rebate, so I suppose, people are, even if they have low bills, there's an overwhelming percentage of people that just want to buy a battery because they're annoyed that they're sending 1,000 kilowatts to the grid in a quarter, and they might get $10 for that. That's
been there for a while. It's still there, isn't it?
It's a bitter pill.
Yeah.
And some people are just like, well, I just don't want them to have that energy. Not if they're going to pay me 1 cent. I'd rather capture it and use it overnight, even if I don't use much.
So that's
that excess energy is a vessel for energy independence.
So that's a psychological drive, isn't it? They're basically saying, bugger the bloody retailer. I don't want my hard-earned energy from my solar panels to go and you pay us bugger all. I'd rather whack it in there.
Yeah. And the further out you go into regional, the more of that you'll see, because farmers hate power companies, hate the water board, all that with a passion, So some of them are just like, I don't care what a battery costs, I'll buy it because I don't want them to have even 1 kilowatt of my energy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so...
That's you meet a customer like that, it's a good thing.
It
no, but you know what I mean from a sales perspective.
Absolutely.
So, batteries. Do you sort of, when you're in front of a customer, do you go through like a base? Are you offering them a basic design that you've already predetermined, based on X amount of factors, or
it's not?
What do you?
It's not predetermined. So as a part of the Solarhart agreement, we must visit every appointment that we get.
I mean, when you go there and you go, hey, you guys, you're 10 kilo average daily load, 15 kilowatt hours a day, you're working a bit from home, you're thinking you're getting an EV, we suggest option B.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in that in-home appointment, we'll obviously look at switchboard, look at potential locations for inverter and batteries. As part of it, we'll look at the hot water, we'll look at the appliances that they have there to try and get an idea of what the peak demand might be.
Yeah, right.
Because the bill doesn't always tell a picture, so you might be using 20 kilowatts a day, but, does that mean, 1 an hour, or does that mean we're using 8 in 1 hour? And, so we try and get an idea and have a discussion with the customer about, I guess, this is what the last 12 months looks like. What does 4 years from now look like? What does 5 years from now look like? Is there going to be a pool, a spa, an electric vehicle? Because we are playing the long game, and it's challenging to add more later. So I think we've all made that mistake.
Yes,
and in the early days, and how about we put a 5 kilowatt inverter with 3 kilowatts worth of panels, and if you need more, you can add some more panels, and not realising, in our industry, how quickly the panel wattages would sort of jump up, and then by the time they're ready, 4 or 5 years down the track, that salesman 5 years ago told me I can add, 2 more kilowatts of panels. Sorry, I think we've all been down that road.
Absolutely, we have. But that's not our fault. That's we've got no control about what the manufacturers are bringing out, and the size of the panels getting bigger, and of course, all the other stuff. It's a hard one, and because you don't blame the salesman at the time for saying that, because that's what the reality was at that point in time.
Absolutely,
and we haven't got crystal balls.
No.
So.
No, I'm sure
it's
no one was deliberately deceiving people, but it's still a bitter pill to swallow down the track when they find out that perhaps they spent a bit more on an inverter than they needed to, trying to build in that future proofing. So by and large now we try and just get it right the first time, and even if that means the system's maybe a little bit bigger than what they need. At least they've got that wriggle room in the future that, you know, if the demand changes, and it very well can, you know, like even just with the inclusion of a car.
That's huge, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know,
Is that what you're seeing now with your customers? A lot of them, are most of them saying, look, we are going to get an EV eventually?
There's a large portion of that, but more so the last couple of years we've been seeing people retreating away from gas at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So for some time now.
Right.
You know, trying to electrify their homes and so, you know, stuff like hot water, you know, for us, I mean, that's low-hanging fruit.
Is it? Yeah.
It's fairly straightforward to change it over. I'd imagine that, you know, with your stove as well, you know, that's so for a lot of people it's a bit more challenging, the heating, particularly if they've got, you know, ducted.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
It's, you know, maybe a $15,000 adventure or something like that, you know, so.
So adventurer, what?
A $15,000 adventure to go from gas to electric, you know, so.
The air conditioners, the reverse cycle air conditioners are they're pretty efficient now though, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, that's something, we've got central heating gas, don't use it that much, but yeah, we got it and it was like, because gas is, when you look at the per megajoule and you convert it to the kilowatt hours, you're paying a huge amount for gas.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Even just the supply charge, you know, my home's electric only, and I tell you what, I don't miss that winter bill, you know, for gas. You know,
Yes.
But, you know, we decided when we were building our new home, we could have had gas in there, but you know, why? So we've got a dollar a day for the rest of our lives, you know, just if we don't use any gas.
Wow.
You know.
Can you talk about the solar? Are you happy to talk about the solar the system you got at your place?
Yeah.
And number one and number two, do you use that sometimes in conversation with customers? By the way, I've got this system and I'm finding this, and this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you got at your place?
So the much to my disgrace that I don't have a Solarhart hot water because with a volume builder.
You can cut that bit out. No, I'm joking.
With a volume builder, you don't get to choose, you know, the brand.
Of course.
They have a select brand and, so I won't talk about the brand.
No, don't.
It's going okay at this stage, and there'll be a Solarhart hot water there one day. And I have obviously the solar power system and everything there, and Solarhart has a really good home energy management platform that I guess I haven't really seen anywhere else. So it's really good to monitor your consumption. So you can actually monitor through that HEMS individual circuits.
Can you explain to people what HEMS is?
Home energy management system.
Yeah,
so with that, Solarhart developed it initially for a hot water system that they have called the Power Store. So the Power Store is
good name, by the way. That's a good name.
Yeah. So this is before batteries become a big thing. So obviously Solarhart realised that, you know, there was a whole bunch of export in the middle of the day that was effectively just unused, and that's, you know, energy that they could use to heat their hot water, you know. So that unit is specifically designed to capture excess and divert that to the hot water. But we can also use that same home energy management system to control battery systems and to monitor the home as a whole. So in my home, you know, I can see the production of solar in real time. I can see when my hot water's charging. I can see my air conditioner. I can see my induction stove when it's consuming. So, you know, there's, I guess, in the early days we were offering no monitoring. It was, you know, Wi-Fi wasn't a thing. And then I guess as the years have gone on, then we've started to offer production monitoring, which is, I guess, it's okay. It's okay. You know, my solar power system made 20 kilowatts today. but where did it go? Did I use it? Did I lose it? Most manufacturers now have production and consumption monitoring, so I can guess you can see the house as a whole.
Yep.
Solarhart take that a step further, and so anything that has a dedicated circuit, we could put a CT over that and actually monitor it. So I've got
that's interesting.
Yeah, so I've actually got a fairly in-depth, analysis of what's using what, and I guess if I need to get smarter about how I use my power and when. And
can you download that information?
You can download that.
Are you a spreadsheety kind of person?
Not really, but that side is particularly addictive, to because it will show you your savings in a day, a week. It'll show you, how much, of energy came directly from solar, how much was provided by the battery, how much come from the grid. You can drill down into individual devices on there and see how much energy they took and how long it run for. It's
very interesting.
It's very clever.
I suppose it's like going back to that attention to detail. You want a lot of detail, but you go to a certain point, it becomes too much, doesn't it? Like you wouldn't want to know like every single PowerPoint what at any stage. If you've got 40 PowerPoints in a big house and you're going, I want to know what's going on, that's too much. But knowing the individual circuits, what's going on there, that's pretty powerful stuff.
It's helpful because even now we get some people that, they say, we're using 30 kilowatts a day and we've got no idea how we're using that energy, So
and Cameron says, but by the way,
and now we've got customers saying we had no idea how much the coffee machine drew, like my husband used to leave it on all day, and things like that. So they're just being aware of what's actually going on.
So they can alter. So the good thing is they can use that information and maybe reduce their consumption where they can without altering that perceived level of comfort that is different for everyone,
Yeah, so we're a solutions-based business, and it's not always about, okay, well, what's the top amount of energy use and let's try and offset all of it and make the system bigger than what they need to cover all of that. Is there ways to actually, make this home more efficient, So can we educate this customer on how we get that energy down a bit, So
that relationship becomes more solid than going, we're going to put a 5 kilowatt solar system.
No doubt about it.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Right.
And that's what I'm about, is building those relationships and getting the best solution for the customer.
Do you get a lot of people who refer you? Like
more than anyone, I'd say.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you can.
Very frustrating for the other salespeople in the team. I think the longer you spend with the business and I guess you have a history of doing the right thing, so I'll probably do 6 or 8 deals a month that I don't have to do anything.
Wow.
They'll ring up and say, you sold this person this, and I'd like to buy the same thing, thanks. So.
Wow. That's really good.
It is.
That must be testament to, your approach and stuff.
It is, yeah. But yeah, and it's nice too. You don't want them all to be hard.
No, it's funny. I remember saying a few times at Greenwood, our ideal customers, like we don't do domestic at all anymore. But when we did, we said only if they want batteries and only if they've got a massive budget. That's all. Because otherwise, like. In the early days, we did the domestic, but we came up like you would have come up with. Oh, what can you do? This company can do this. And you go, really? Like, it's because it's hard. It really is hard. So I was just talking to Cameron off camera about the Dunning, something I'd heard about a little bit, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Heard the name. No idea what it is, and Cameron, please take it away because it deals with sales and perceptions and stuff. It's really important. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, so the Dunning-Kruger effect with salespeople. So they describe it as there's 4 pivotal moments in the lifespan of a salesperson. So the first one is, I guess, the early days, which that salesperson might get some early wins and from that they might become overly confident and that at that stage it's called Mount Stupid. So, and sadly, about 50% of salespeople get stuck on or trapped on Mount Stupid.
Yeah, right.
Where they're sort of, they'll read off a brochure. Their point of difference in the market is that they're cheap, and if they're not the cheapest, then they're in trouble.
Just go,
so they're a bit of a one-trick pony. And out of the 4 different stages, you can get stuck in any one of them, but probably the vast majority of salespeople get stuck on Mount Stupid, and then eventually, they'll decide that the company that they're working for is not cheap enough, and then they'll launch into another business and another bit, and you just get this churn of salespeople, and other companies will see, oh, this guy's been doing for solar for 2 years. He comes to us as a professional. He must be good, not realising that this guy's actually trapped on Mount Stupid, and you'll churn him as well.
Wow.
So the second stage is called the Valley of Despair. So it's all mountainous terms.
Yeah.
So basically that's when the salesperson realises that this industry is actually sort of more complex than I initially thought, and I'm going to have to, really dig down into this and sort of get the mechanical workings of, how does this fit for the consumer that I'm trying to sell this to, and can be really, really overwhelming. So you get this huge chasm of this. You've gone this really, really overconfident salesperson to someone that's actually now gone back into their shell, and they're trying different things to see what works, and it's a lot of sort of hit and miss in that stage. The next stage is what they call the slope of enlightenment, where they've got a much, much better understanding of how this all gets put together, and they've tried some things on customers. It's real world, and they've found some things actually working, and managed to sort of package it all up. And then the last stage is called the plateau of sustainability, where you get this salesperson that I guess is like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, and a really polished, performer that, has process and training and knows what works and knows the product, and can answer a question on a dime and always comes out with the right solution. And the fact is that those salespeople, there's probably 10 or 20% of those guys in the sales industry, and those 10 or 20% are responsible for 60 to 80% of the revenue.
Yeah, right.
So
it's very interesting, isn't it? Like it sounds like to get to that plateau, it's a combination of there's intelligence and empathy, understanding what people are about, liking people. I think for sales you have to like people, and also understanding what works and what doesn't.
Absolutely.
It's and probably accepting too that you're not going to every encounter is not going to end up in a sale, and accepting that, isn't it?
You have to accept that.
Yeah. That how, and for you, how was that? Like in the early days, was that something you found easy to accept, or
no?
Yeah.
Because in the early days, I guess your self-worth is very much based on your sales result.
Because you're selling yourself, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not a cliche, because that's how it is, isn't it?
It can be torture for a salesperson. So I know, in the early days, if my name wasn't the top of that board, I was pretty depressed, and looking for ways to get back up there, and a lot of soul searching, but as you mature, I suppose it's a little bit less.
You hopefully get a bit of wisdom as you get older. No, that's it's really interesting. The Dunning. So anyone listening, the Dunning-Kruger effect, and obviously this apply. It doesn't matter what you're selling. This is the sales process.
Absolutely.
And I want to ask. When someone asks you a question that you don't have the answer to, what is your response?
It's okay not to know the answer.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I think the appropriate response is, that's a really good question. Let's find that out for you, you know, because I'd be speculating.
As opposed to bullshitting.
And I don't want to speculate.
No, I agree. I think I've always said, like, I don't know, but I'll find out. I'll find someone who can answer that question and I'll get back to you. Because if you attempt to bullshit, it's absolutely counterintuitive.
Well, it leads to more bullshit.
That's exactly right. And you don't want that when you're presenting a concept.
Because you're trying to build trust.
That's it.
And all of that. And those trust and bullshit don't go together.
With building trust, is there also a process of building respect? And if there is that process, does the trust come first, then the respect, or the respect, then the trust? I know it's a bit of a philosophical question because I've asked it to myself a few times.
I think the respect will come first. I think we all try to be respectful of others, whether or not we trust them or not. But yeah, I think you definitely have to build trust, and you have to display reasons, you know, why people should trust you. You know, so often that can come about by something as simple as saying, "Look, I don't think you need to spend 20 grand. I think we could achieve the result that you want to achieve by spending 15 grand."
Yeah,
you know? Like if this was my house, I don't think I'm spending the 20 grand.
Yeah.
And then they'll sort of like, hang on a minute.
They really appreciate
this guy's actually on our side.
That's right. That's the thing, isn't it? But at the end of the day, it's getting that balance where, hey, you're here to sell a system. This is your job. They have to be aware that is your job. But at the same time, you're not trying to push something that they really don't need. That's a balancing act and a half.
It is.
Now,
because they think before you go there that this guy's he's a sales guy.
Yeah, he's a sales guy.
And he's going to go for the kill. He's going to try and sell us the biggest, most expensive thing that we don't need.
Okay.
And the first indication that we get that he's doing that, we're out.
So that's one of the unspoken concerns that you have to probably address, number one.
Absolutely.
So how do you address that concern right off the bat?
By closing the gates, you know.
Yeah,
so
right.
By you know, I guess a really consultative approach about, okay, so this is what now looks like, this is what the future looks like. How do we tailor the system so that it meets your needs?
Yes.
You know, because there's no two homes that are the same, there's no two businesses that are the same. You know, so my neighbour got a 6.6 and that neighbour got a 6.6, but that doesn't mean that you get a 6.6 as well.
True, but in a way you are competing against keeping up with the FOMO and keeping up with the Joneses scenario.
Yeah.
You know, like, because a lot of people will leverage off the fact that someone has already done something. Because there's not too many early adopters, is there? No. Selling to early adopters is the hardest thing. Yeah. Selling to the people after the early adopters, that's easier because then they can that's right. You've already sold a system like mine that I'm thinking of. Oh, okay. As opposed to I'm number one. Yeah, it's
we've seen the industry sort of change dramatically sort of over the years. You know, I remember those early days, you know, sitting across the table from people on there looking at you like, what is this hocus pocus this guy's talking about? You know, and couldn't get you out of there quick enough.
Yeah,
you know,
wow.
It was only the scientists and the hippies that were sort of buying solar in those early days.
Right.
You know, so it's obviously become much more mainstream these days. So it's just, but I think we're seeing a lot more. It's nice to see the evolution of the business, where it's gone from, I guess, not so many people, taking up solar power to it becoming sort of more mainstream and but very, very price driven. And then I felt like the last sort of 5 years has been that real drive towards, doing the right thing, and with the introduction of Solar Victoria and I guess peak bodies that are overseeing the industry and a lot of auditing and stuff. That's great, So, but I think people now are sort of, they, lots of them tell us they don't want the cheapest. They would just want to do this right. They want to do it once. So you just have to show them how you can sort of fit in with that vision that they have, So it's interesting space.
It's a very interesting space. We can definitely all agree on that. Now, off camera we were talking about Solarhart's approach to the products that they get and then they use and utilise. Can you sort of expand on? Well, not expand because no one's been listening. Because as in the break we were talking about. Sorry, Cam. What you mentioned was that Solarhart has their own panel. Can you explain that the own panel side of things and the advantages of that, and also the inverters that you use as well?
So 90% of solar businesses out there, I guess their business model is that they will take the order from the customer, they will go down to the local wholesaler, whomever that might be, purchase a few items, and then generally get a subcontractor to install that. Solarhart are not a big fan of that business model, in that we keep seeing panel manufacturers enter the market and then exit because the Australian market is not big enough for them. So Solarhart actually oversee the manufacturing of their own panel. It comes to Australia OEM'd as a Solarhart silhouette panel. Under Australian consumer law, whomever imports the product is where that warranty sits. So rather than your warranty sitting with whoever the wholesaler is, that's fairly and squarely on us. It's a truly Australian warranty.
So that's real peace of mind for the end user, isn't it?
And peace of mind for us too.
Yeah,
that, if we're handing out a 30-year warranty, then we don't have to go looking for a company that's now exited the Australian market to honour that warranty.
Wow.
In terms of inverters and batteries, we have 4 products in our lineup. Solarhart do a real world testing on every product that they go to market with before we go to market with it. Even if we have a partnership with that brand and they release a new product, that doesn't automatically guarantee that we'll go to market with it. We want to see how it works and all of that first. So we currently offer Goodwee, SolarEdge, Enphase, and Tesla in our solar lineup. And then paired up with our own panels, and then obviously our hot water products we manufacture ourselves. And
then that overriding, I'm sorry I forgot the name of that overriding monitoring system. The
home energy management.
The home energy management. That's because again, as you mentioned before, this is a total concept that you say. You're not just going in and going, we want to whack on solar panels. You're looking at consumption. You're looking at the hot water where Solarhart first started. You're looking at the whole system, the system as a whole.
Absolutely, yeah. And if we don't sell the system as a whole, then eventually we'd like to. Whether that means just solar now and battery later and hot water. But I guess it's the job of a salesperson, and I pride myself in sort of farming the database and finding those nuggets in there that maybe we've got a special on hot water at the moment. Maybe it was a bit dear at the time. Would you consider it now? Your hot water's a
Hang on, can you step back a bit? What do you mean farming the data? So explain that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm a firm believer that there's no better customer than the one that you already have. So I
True.
Particularly with the take up of batteries, there's fairly comprehensive monitoring that we have on systems these days. So you can actually go back to a customer and have it might not necessarily have to be a sales call, but just touch base with them and say, hey, we do an annual review of, the systems in our fleet. When I was out there talking to you, you were saying that you thought about 70% of the energy you use during the day. That's not what we're seeing from your monitoring. In actual fact, you're using perhaps 30% of that energy.
So you've got really detailed notes of each meeting.
That's purely from the manufacturer's monitoring.
No, but I'm talking about they've said, we think 70%, but the reality is 30 from the monitoring. But they've actually so what I'm trying to get at is, do you have a really good memory for those conversations, or are you saying in your notes putting this stuff down? You know what I'm saying?
A bit of both. Yeah.
Wow.
So my memory's my sort of superpower. So
that's really good.
So I remember, everybody. So I guess if you've got 70% of the energy that your solar power system is making that's effectively wasted, there's opportunity for a conversation there. That do you think you can maybe shift some of that load into the daytime?
Yeah.
Because if you can't, you maybe want to think about adding a battery to your system. Generally, the next question is, well, how much would that be? So then we're sort of off again,
So do you have people ring up and go, Cameron, I'm changing my retail and they're offering this great deal now between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. It's 6 cents or whatever. Can we maybe look at those batteries you mentioned way back and, can we work something out of, some kind of, does that happen?
All the time.
Yeah, wow.
If you build that trust with the customer.
Yeah.
That's a great phone call.
Yeah, I bet it is.
I'm thinking about changing to this retailer. Can you just have a look at what they're offering and offer your advice, on whether you think I should shift to them and these are the reasons that I'm thinking of shifting. That's a great phone call. Absolutely. Also, the 3-month, 12-month phone call, the guys, it's probably not a phone call people want to make, but I think if you want to be one of the greats, it's a phone call you need to make. So at 3 months, call the customer. Have you received your first bill yet? What does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because we obviously painted a picture 3 months ago about this dream that, and there was a whole bunch of pictures and numbers and graphs. What does that mean in real world?
They'd appreciate it. The customers would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they actually care.
Yeah.
They don't just sold their system pissed off and never to be seen again until maybe...
That's most.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And then in a year, in a year.
So
follow them up again.
What do you... I'm getting a bit nitty gritty here, but do you have some trigger in your software, in your CRM that says you can put in and go, ring John Smith in 3 months after date of commissioning, check back and
we do.
Yeah, that's really good.
We have a great CRM that's been developed for Solarhart.
Wow.
And there's really, really detailed information and a great way of sort of circling back and just selecting line items and you can go into the activity log of that particular customer and see those touch points there, or if they haven't been touched along the journey. So
when you're presenting to a customer, are you using like a PowerPoint or any kind of presentation at all, or does it depend on the customer?
So we have a Solarhart CRM, yeah. So basically that integrates. So we offer interest-free finance, so it integrates Zip Money into that, so it calculates your repayments. We can put all the billing details into that. We can do our solar panel design through that, so it integrates near maps in there as well. And then once you've entered in all the information, you've done your design, you can select your inverter, your hot water, your panel, your battery, all of that. It will calculate, I guess the the pitch of the roof and the directions that you put the panels. And
so this is
all
a
of
custom
that.
design one.
It's custom.
No one else has got this.
No one else has got it.
Very interesting.
And then at the end, it will populate a quote for you that will have, you know, line by line, this is what it costs. These will be your savings. These are the assumptions that we've made. Here's your solar panel design. These are the products we're using, and this is the warranty that comes with them. And then with that quote will be all the PDFs of the products that we've chosen.
And does it spit out a BOM list for the installers as well, with cabling and all of that? Yeah, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds... I'm just getting a picture that Solarhart really... Attention to detail is very important to Solarhart.
It'll flag warnings too for you, which is good too. So you can get new salespeople and they'll say, "Why is this, you know, red bar coming up?" And it won't allow me to do this because you've not chosen enough panels on a string, or you've gone too many panels on a string, or so you can sort of silly proof it for new entrants.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is, isn't it?
Yeah, rather than getting, you know, all the way to the end, the customer says, "Yeah, that's great," and then you can't actually install what's been.
Yeah, and then you got egg on your face. No. Yeah. Now, we've been talking about domestic, and I know that you guys do commercial as well. To me, that's a different kettle of fish, for want of a better expression. How does the process differ, the sales process differ from the domestic sales process when you are presenting a commercial proposition? You know, let's say 300 kilowatt, whatever it is, you know, fairly big. It's an engineering company. They've got a factory roof. What are the differences from how would you approach this?
More often than not, interval data, which you're not really, you know, playing with much on residential. So a lot more sort of interval data, because you need to be sort of more answerable to multiple people in the business. It may not be just one presentation. It may be several presentations to different levels of people in the business until you find the decision maker. And it can be annoying because each person you present to you think is the decision maker, and then, then you find out that we'll just need you to go over that again. It's very, very price driven.
Yeah.
And quite often there can be a big churn there because it may well be dependent on a landlord. So it can make all of the sense in the world. But it all hangs on the landlord willing to front up the money, and I guess it begs the question for the landlord, well, what's in it for me?
Of course.
And there's plenty of stuff out there that says, you know, energy efficient buildings, they have a higher retention of you know the tenants that are in there.
But that's hard because you have to sell to the business owner and to the landlord.
Correct.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
You really want, ideally, to have the landlord is the business owner, and then it's hard because anyone who's done it knows how hard it is and how much effort you put in, and how much more detail, only for them to go, as you were telling me off camera, you know. Can you tell that story about the GM saying yes and the other guy saying yes, and then?
Oh, that's it. Yeah, a perfect example of, you know, finding that decision maker. So the first port of call was the engineer for the business. He dealt with and you know, a lot of the ins and outs sort of purchasing, but as we found out to a certain level. So presented to the engineer first. Come out of that, his words were to us that it was not a matter of if, but when, and that they would definitely be going with Solarhart. Off the back of that statement, we asked them if they would like us to organise an engineering report because the system was so large.
Like a roof structural engineering,
structural report. We thought that would be a good idea. which they agreed to and paid for, which is normally a pretty good sign that it's
absolutely
heading in the right direction.
Wow.
Got the report looked good. Then did another presentation to the general manager. General manager thought it was a wonderful idea and was right next to the engineer. We both think this is a great idea and we're making all the right noises. If you wouldn't mind, our business is overseas owned and our CFO is in Singapore. Could we just have one more, like just a Zoom call with him and then we'll get it going? And the CFO scuttled a lot.
Bloody hell.
So
what reason, do you remember what reason they gave? Or
so it was a learning too. So obviously, you know, there's been recent rule changes, but you know, for the last who knows how many years, you know, you can go up to 99 kilowatts and you'll get the STC on that. So there's an immediate, you know, deduction off that quote.
Yeah.
So on commercials, you know, the vast majority would probably pull it up at that. That represented about 30% of their consumption, that 100 kilowatt mark.
That's not bad.
He wasn't happy with that. He stated, does this seem the kind of business that cares about rebates? We want to go after more than 30% of it. Okay. Yeah. So explain to him. Then you're into LGCs and all that sort of stuff, which they were happy to entertain. So then we ended up putting together a package with like a 300 kilowatt system.
Yeah.
And then it just died a death. It just, you know, well, now it's too expensive. So, and this is what you get, you know. So where's the line in there between, you know, what's not enough and what's too much, you know. So
it's interesting too now that, especially when you've got companies who are overseas owned, all this carbon accounting stuff starting to scope 1, 2 and 3. We need to do renewable energy under our environmental obligations and all this stuff, which is a plus for the industry, right? But it does complicate it. And then with the Victorian stuff, you're talking about the VEEC side of things, where you're doing, it's a bigger system, you can use SDCs, and then instead of using LGCs, use the VEECs, which is, it's a bit of an interesting area, and we get a particular company to do, you know, green energy trading and or similar. But it's so frustrating, especially when you got the GM saying it, you got the engineer, and you're going, this is a formality, and they've gone, and you go, shit, how many hours have I spent on this?
So much, yeah. So.
But you're obviously still doing commercial.
Yeah.
And what size do you like? Do you like to stick under the 100? I mean, probably for reason, but that market that's much smaller than it used to be, isn't it? That sub 100.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're looking at like for the existing systems, commercial that you put a sub 100. Are you looking to put batteries on there as well?
It's becoming more viable now, like with the rebate, and I guess, you know, there's been an announcement, you know, recently that, you know, I guess due to the cheap batteries in the market, that they're now going to put a sort of cap on that support that's going to sort of tear down. So, you know, we recently put a 100 kilowatt solar power system with 100 kilowatt with a battery in a commercial premises in Bayswater, and they've actually recently moved locations because we had done PV for them in their previous factory. Quite often, you know, traditionally it didn't make sense. You know, you're not going to get anywhere near the demand and all that sort of stuff, and to get that demand, you know, it's literally would be millions of dollars in battery, and you just go down this sort of quagmire. And, you know, I guess residential batteries, you know, they sort of they weren't really a fit for commercial, but now we're seeing the manufacturers really changed their focus on commercial batteries, and so they're becoming more and more now a fit, and we can offer some serious sort of blackout protection and stuff like that. Where before we were sort of limited.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So we're starting to see a lot more in that space. Whether this reduction in the rebate will slow that down, remains to be seen.
I mean, we can speculate about. Yeah, it's weird because we're in an industry where there's a rebate here, the rebate there, and it's all over the place, and unfortunately we have to be reactive because we can't be proactive because we don't know what's going to happen.
Correct.
Well, you could be, but you can make a big financial mistake. Which I'll give you an example. Like who was to know that the DC isolators were going to be scrap them. So imagine all those companies who bought up big on DC isolators like a month before. And
that's valid.
That's what are they? And the only thing they can use these DC isolators is to go back and to fix up old systems that have got a DC isolator. And even then, I'm not sure if they touch them too much, they have to bring them up to spec. So you're still allowed to use DC isolators, but it's just who would use
them.
If
it's a like for like.
Like for like. Exactly. So it's like, but I just think there's some manufacturing place with else than these DC isolators,
You're going to have a big bonfire.
Oh, don't say that. Because, a lot of them, that was the weak point, in a lot of the weak point of any solar system, electrical system, is the connections, and there were some really bodgy connections going into those DC isolators.
We've seen a lot of that in the industry, a lot of that compliance stuff around the DC, and we continue to see changes, trying to get that moisture away from the DC.
It's talking to people who know way more than me. It's even with all the valves and this, that, and the other. It's all. And IP ratings that I could submerge them underwater. It still gets in.
It does.
It still gets in. So it's good that they've moved away from those. And I tell you what, the installers like it. Now you have an installation team.
We do.
And so they're an in-house team.
In-house team.
That's a big selling point, isn't it?
It's huge. Yeah.
Because you're going to a customer and going, you're dealing with us. We're not just getting a subby to come in and the classic, there's something wrong with my system.
Yeah.
Ring the person who installed it. Yeah. Which we hear these stories, don't we?
I guess my experience in the industry with subcontractors is the relationship between a subcontractor and a solar power company is probably 12 months to 2 years before they fall out over money or something like that. To have your own electrical team, I can't tell you how valuable it is. It takes a lot to set it up. Like each one of those guys needs a car or a van or a truck and insurance and
tools
and you got to pay the bloke.
Absolutely.
As well, so it takes a bit of setting up, but when there's issues in the future, which there are many, in our industry, to be able to just point that guy and say, yep, go there. Just that the end result for the consumer is so much better to get them back up and running again really, really quickly rather than trying to get a subcontractor back that hates that business. I've had customers, we've taken over the servicing of their system because the inverters failed, and they said, look at this, here's a picture of the company said my inverter it's on the pallet at their workplace. We're just waiting on someone to come out and install it. That was 12 months ago. Stuff like this, so, where they can get the inverter or panel or whatever it may be replaced under warranty, but actually getting someone out there to physically do that work is challenging. So
that's why you got in-house is best, because you can control that aspect of the business.
Yeah, and the install as well. So you've got guys that are specifically trained on every product that we go to market with. They don't wake up tomorrow saying, "Oh, I wonder what I'm doing today."
Oh, I've got to look at the YouTube thing on how to program a good Wii. No, it doesn't.
They know that they're either installing a good Wii, a Solar Edge, an Enphase, or a Tesla.
Yeah, right.
The only thing that changes is the location.
Yeah, right. That's really good. So that's the thing. If you're doing these many jobs, you start developing these amazing shortcuts and amazing understanding, and that can be relayed to the customer, because invariably the installers are chatting to the customer while they're there, and that adds to the credibility of the whole thing, because it all plays a role. It's all those 1%ers, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It
just ends up with a better finish, finish overall, because every solar power system, they all have their idiosyncrasies.
They do, yeah.
So just getting to know, day in, day out, what that looks like, and being able to tackle that sort of before it happens, instills confidence in the customer. Like, wow, these guys were slick, they were onto this, and really, really quickly they dealt with this, and they knew exactly what they were doing, rather than, on the phone to tech support for a couple of hours trying to work out why this thing won't commission.
And as a result, you get some decent testimonials too.
Correct.
Which is incredibly powerful based on what we talked about earlier about, no one wants to be an early adopter. But if I'm thinking of a system and I see that Joe Blow's put one in and has said some good things about these people, okay. That can be the deciding factor.
Sometimes it's the only way to decide, like I know as a buyer, like a couple of years ago, my wife and I decided we're going to sort of build a new home, and there's umpteen amount of, home builders.
Yeah, right.
How do you split them?
That's a scary thing. Half of them are going out of...
So we went, in the end, we looked at, display homes. We went one after the other, this one, we like this, we don't like this. And then you get a top 5. And how do you separate the top 5? Okay, let's have a look at the reviews. So that managed to sort of knock out 3 of them.
Yeah, wow.
So now we're down to the top 2.
Right.
So it's really powerful, that review, no doubt about it.
Oh, so you're in the process right now.
No.
It's built.
Well, we're living in it now. But I'm just, that was my experience.
Yeah. So, that logic, it's the same thing, isn't it? Like people want to know what other people are doing, because we don't sit by ourselves. We're connected, and that's why it's really powerful. I mean, there's some businesses who rely less and less these days because it's so convenient, but they rely totally on word of mouth because they're doing such a good job. They can, Joe Blow recommended you, Sarah, whoever. And I think you get to that stage, you're doing everything. You're doing everything right. It's now back to the commercial side of things. It's what's your forget it. Not commercial, residential, commercial, the whole lot. The power of images, is that something that you use in your presentation? Like, for instance, do you have an image of the wall of the customer's house where the inverter goes, and you put the inverter on, and you have things like, hey, that's where your inverter will possibly go?
Unfortunately, not.
That really works well.
Yeah.
Because you're already creating, you know what I'm talking about. You're already creating the mind a possibility that allows someone's brain to go, oh, so that's what it'll look. We do that with the commercial stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't know how powerful it is because we haven't, analysed, that final decision, just because you put a picture, but it all plays a role. That's how our brains work.
I'd like to know more about that. That sounds pretty cool, yeah. So I guess we're referencing recent installations that are the same, So
yes,
so we're saying, well, actually, I had a customer just like you recently.
That's powerful too. But you go one step more, and you have so I come to your house. I'm showing a picture of your the system, or you're talking about your system or the system you're going to buy.
Yeah.
You are going to buy,
yeah.
And then I'll show you a wall,
and
you go, and this is where the inverter will go. So you're basically they're creating their own neural pathways in their brain going, so that's what it'll look like.
Yeah.
Power of the visual image. It's very, and it's not.
In the car trade, you would say, that's at the end, isn't it? You're saying, what colour would you like? that's the same thing.
Absolutely.
That's
You know
the
what I'm
same
talking about.
thing.
You're presupposing that, well, what colour would you like? Or are you going to get the mag wheels instead?
Yeah. If you're asking a customer, are you okay with the panel being there or the inverter being there, then we're a long way down the track, aren't we? These are buying decisions.
Well, this
now.
is the thing is you have a picture of the house and the roof, and you go, this is what the panels will look like. And by the way, this is where your inverter can look on this wall. But you know something, if you don't want on this wall, here's the other place we looked at, bang, and they go, oh, so that's what they look like. Because as a customer, do they know what an inverter really looks like? They might see a brochure, but they go, oh, now I can relate it to it sits on that wall. Oh, okay. Yeah, you should start that.
I like it, yeah.
We'll chat more about that later. Yeah, it's because, again, it's all these 1%ers and, it really – and the thing is, with all this stuff, even if you know how it works, because we all have the same genetics, you are still susceptible to all that kind of stuff. Like, I know how all that stuff works, but – I'm still susceptible because I've got the same DNA as everyone else. Yeah. So it's like that's the thing. If you can go, well, how would that work? That works on me. I'll do it. It's a wonderful thing because if you were selling something really bad, I think it's like almost evil. Some of the techniques that you can use from a psychological perspective, right? But because you're selling something that you truly believe in, then it's not. And let's face it, solar really is, it's a worthwhile thing. You can't really say too much bad about it.
It's the gift that keeps giving. Yeah.
I love that.
It really is.
You're dead right.
There's only so many things you can do with your home that will actually sort of give back, So, and most of them give back in just a feel-good sort of, lifestyle sort of way. This is actually putting money back into your pocket for many, many years into the future, So where everything else in the home just costs you money.
You're dead right. I mean, and if you're talking about commercial, you can also talk, and how much of an impact this plays is debatable, but the thermal shield effect. So I put panels on your commercial roof, and statistically, I can reduce your HVAC by up to 30%. It might only be 10. So in addition to us producing power, we're saving you power because we're putting this bloody barrier on top of your roof.
Yeah.
And that can be, and I've done that years ago, and people going, oh, no, these other people have never mentioned to me. I go, yeah, but that's what, and they go, oh, mate, everyone understands it. It's not some technological thing you have to explain like how an inverter works. He's like, oh, yeah. It's like a bloody umbrella on your roof. Yep. And they go, oh, wow. So not only you're producing power, we're saving you power as well. So all those little things can play a massive role. Yeah, it's a fascinating area. So the commercial stuff though, are you allowed to say would you prefer to focus more on commercial, or would you prefer to focus more on residential, or you're happy with the mix that you've got now? Like,
I'm happy with the mix.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to be all
I think
one way or the other. I think commercial only. Credit to the guys that do that day in, day out. That just because it can be a slow burn, and so for me to be getting those little wins in between,
right,
sort of just sort of keeps
it's
me.
Validating too, isn't it? The wins, because and it's like not instant gratification, but close to it. Whereas you're right, with the commercial, it can be like, "G'day, Cameron. 12 months later, maybe we're starting the install."
Correct. Yeah.
And I mean, hey, how many years have we got on this?
So how am I eating in between?
In between
now and then.
So. Are you quite financial with cash flow and stuff for your? Do you look at that a lot and work out the sort of cash flow stuff? Because that's a continuous problem for all businesses, isn't it? Cash flow.
Not me personally. The owner of the business is, he looks at that and he has the appropriate amount of staff and he prices the systems and we just go out there and get it, But, Solarhart's in a very, very good position and thankfully something I haven't had to worry about, like it was the right move going from the other solar company to Solarhart. I don't have to worry about is my pay going to be in there on a
You've
Wednesday.
been there 7 years, haven't you? Seven years. So
that's right.
it's obviously, and in this day and age when people are moving around all over the place. So I think that's a wonderful thing. Look, the commercial one is again, it is interesting. But I think from dealing with residential is more interesting because the financials there, but there's the other drive, the psychological drivers, as we mentioned about. I don't want to give my hard-earned energy back to those bastards. Let's buy a battery and all of that stuff, and you do develop a more personal relationship with a residential. Ideally, with a commercial, they are talking at their, if the owners are going along to a business function where all the CEOs are coming along, they go, oh, we got solar, we got it from, Cameron. That happens, but it probably happens more from a residential perspective, that word of mouth.
Most of our leads for commercial actually come out of the residential space, to be honest.
So the owner of a house, that's, wow.
So You'll get someone, you've done a fantastic job. Everything that you said would happen has happened. Would you be prepared to look at our business? That would be where the majority of those leads come from.
Oh, yeah.
So
Wow.
one feeds the other.
Wow.
And it can go the other way too. You might get a lead on a commercial and that's developed to, wow, you guys are great. Would you mind looking at my house?
Yes. Do you have, now, when you're doing a residential commercial job, do you have signage up? Because I know in a lot of cases, like there's other stakeholders around, like you're doing a commercial job and there might be a factory next door and, hey, they got solar? I wonder what, maybe I'll have a chat with the guys. Does that happen with the residential as well and the residential commercial?
We do have signage up, no doubt about it, yeah. So we, any occasion that we get to put it up, we'll put it up. We also have what they call door hangers. So they provide us, it's just a little card that says someone else in your street is installing a system with Solarhart. So we'll go back out there on the day of and maybe drop it to the next half a dozen all the way around them, just to sort of see if we can pique their interest, because it's quite. They put on a good display, Solarhart. They're all branded. Vehicles that are on site, so they're going to see
high visibility,
high vis, turn up, Solarhart trucks, Solarhart vans, Solarhart youth, what's going on here, So if they've got a little flyer, and we offer them a couple of $100 off if they want to jump on board as well. It's a good neighbour discount.
Does that work well? Has it been working well? Like
every bit helps, mate,
the 1%ers, of course. Yeah,
every bit helps.
I'll tell you what, it's been a very interesting conversation about solar, but also about sales. I think the conversation we've had it applies to any industry. Thankfully, we're involved in this interesting industry, but just some of the concepts we've talked about are equally applicable. So thanks very much for coming in, Cameron.
Thanks for having me.
I think we've covered a bit, but I reckon as soon as the camera goes off, and tomorrow I'll go, I wish I'd asked this, I wish I'd asked that. Maybe a part 2 one at one stage. Best of luck going forward. And, thanks very much. It was good.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay.
A little bit of a handshake.
Thanks very much.